Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you coming to my talk. Hopefully learn something about emotive agents. And let's get started. So a little bit by myself, right? I am into skiing, sailing, originally from Baltimore, Maryland. That's where that sailing photo is from. And I figured I'd play to the local audience with my recent vacation a few months ago to Bratislava, and with my fiance there. And a little bit about what I do for work. So I work on the STAR platform. Thank you very much for the intro. It's through the Liquid Studios here in Accenture in Munich, Germany. It's where I work, and we have team members here in Bratislava, around Europe, and also in the Americas. So we have a bunch of people working on this platform, and we have a few different use cases, and we are building out capability now to do Gen AI agents on the platform and for various other use cases. So you can see at the bottom right there our Gen AI, which I'll talk about in a little bit and show you a quick little demo if we're still good on time. And this is right here our Gen AI Experience Center, where we hold in-person, virtual experiences once a month about Gen AI. We talk to different vendors, Microsoft, and we'll bring them in, show them our studio, so we don't necessarily have to have people in person, but we can have a really immersive experience, multiplayer experience. So I just want to say what this talk is not going to be about at first. I don't have a PhD in psychology. I didn't study cognitive science. I'm not an expert in effective computing, but it will cover various different aspects about use cases, some ethics around Gen AI motive agents, and also what is a Gen AI motive agent, right? So on the left side, we have the interpretation, so understanding emotions, understanding what a person is trying to say or perceive or how they might be feeling. And then on the other side, we have the simulation, right? So how do we respond to that person? How do we be emotional in our responses. And so let me talk to you through the different kind of aspects of what emotional AI could be, or what the different parts of it. At the top here, we have the data input. So stuff like text. We all have used probably OpenAI or ChatGPT, and we've talked to the computer this way. Through audio, so speech to text, but also through things like what does the voice sound like, right? We also can do audio, visual, so both through movies and images. Based off of that detection or collection of data, we can then do sentiment analysis, positive or negative. Is the person happy, sad, excited, nervous, right? From there, we go on to the interpretation. So we have the data, we've done some analysis, we understand the time and place of where this is taking place, and then we can also put context around it. What was said previously in conversations, what is happening now, how do those things relate, and then what is their body language compared to what they're saying, facial expressions, things like this. And then the fourth aspect here is the response generation. So both on the audio side, video, images, and text. So I wanted to provide a little bit of context of, well, emotional AI, great. But what does this look like for the world? Where are we going? And some research that I was doing says that by 2032, we'll see an increase to 13.8 billion market size for this, what I am calling emotional AI market, okay? So this is, we're on a rocket ship, and we're going somewhere with this. So who in the room here thinks or has an answer to this question? Does Gen AI have emotional awareness? Raise of hands. Yes? No? Okay. There's a lot of no votes. So maybe by the end you'll be able to have an opinion. But how do we qualify that? So how do we tell if the AI has emotional awareness, right? So I'll talk you through a study that was done as a preliminary study through the levels of emotional awareness, but also through Google Bart and ChatGPT to see if they think it could be qualified as emotional, right? So one way of testing is by this test, 5 levels of emotional awareness. It's at the baseline, physical sensations. This is something you might feel like a shock reaction, nervousness, maybe sweating, right? This is a physical sensation that you might have. And then at the top levels, or most emotionally aware, you might have sensations such as, or thoughts or feelings, which are blends of blends. So both how you are feeling, so I might be on this stage excited to talk to you, but also nervous. I might be, somewhat emotional and have many different. And then I might also be able to interpret what you guys are feeling, excited that it's almost happy hour at the end of the day, but also maybe interested in the conversation that we're having together, right? So how does ChatGPT do? Quick scenario, you and a friend are doing a very similar job. One of you gets promoted, it's your friend, and how does that make you feel, right? So think about this for a second. And then also, how does it make your friend feel, okay? So what happens when we ask ChatGPT? So a lot of words here, but in summary, very well scored on the emotional awareness test. So both includes multiple emotions on how it perceives to feel, and then also how it might say that the friend feels about the situation. Another way of evaluating emotional awareness is a visual, right? So a reading the mind in the eyes test. Through this photo here, there's like 36 photos through this test, it's standardized in psychology, in where they try to guess what the emotions of just the eyes are. Who believes here that these eyes are cautious? Okay, bored, insisting, aghast, okay? Some maybe don't know. But let's see how ChatGPT does. So insisting is correct. So we might be able to infer that it is able to detect the human emotions, at least through this one example photo I'm giving you. But let's talk about the study results in actuality, or the preliminary study. The normal population for the text-based is 56 to 58, higher score being better. And the results that this study produced were GPT-4, 97, Bard, 97. So we might be able to say that they are at least interpreting or able to perceive emotions well through that test. And then the eye photos, normal population score 26 to 30. And GPT right in there. So might be able to see that that is able to detect emotions through images correctly. But Bard was determined to be no better than guessing. So I think it's important that we are aware of the different applications and how they can or cannot detect emotions in people, or also be able to simulate them. I'll give you a second to read this, but I thought that this was a great quote about this simulated cognition, that these, I'll say this a few times throughout this talk, don't really have emotions as far as the researchers are aware, but really it's a simulated cognition, right? So based off the training data, it's able to simulate real human emotions back. So, and I'll leave you with a quick video, not leave you the entire talk, but Does ChatGPT say it has emotions? It's very hard to read up there, but it says, I don't have emotions, essentially. So OpenAI has at least done a decent job at creating this, I think, to be able to express the fact that it's not actual emotions, but really based off of training data, it's able to simulate human emotions. Okay, what are the possible use cases here? So healthcare. Monitoring emotional states of patients might be a possible use case. Improving access to medical services that are in hard-to-reach areas or for people that don't have access to these services normally. About psychology, but also in a hospital setting, maybe being able to provide emotional support when going through a tough situation, a surgery or something like this. Potentially improving patient outcomes. And I think it's key here to remember that, especially I think in the healthcare use case, that these are not replacements, but rather adjunct. So we shouldn't think of emotional support agents in healthcare as being a replacement for a properly trained and medically licensed professional. But rather as a way of we can help support them or provide services to people that simply have no access to those kind of things. Clear use case, customer service, right? Can we get better outcomes when people have problems with our product or tool? Emotionally intelligent chatbots might be able to de-escalate situations. They might be able to provide proactive support, so identifying angry or frustrated customers quickly and dealing with them with empathy and understanding their situation allows us to solve potential issues and retain customers, hopefully. Coaching and feedback. So a great example of this might be, and I didn't use it this way, but having a emotionally aware chatbot that you can give a presentation to, providing feedback about your tone, word choice, what is included in the presentation, and then being able to say that to you in a way that isn't making you feel bad about your presentation, but actually constructive, right? As well as maybe training in the future could be used for coaching and training this way. Personal development. So a lot of people have a watch or smartwatch. Maybe this could be used for monitoring your emotional well-being and state throughout the day, right? So we already have how many steps we take, what our heart rate is. Those factors also are in effective computing, right? So we're understanding things about ourselves, and then how do we then better ourselves with that feedback? So am I getting enough sleep? Stuff like this. As well as things like goal setting. So am I able to properly and make a New Year's resolution or something like this through maybe a personal assistant that's aware of the surroundings of what's going on with your life. And also in communication, so how do I communicate better with others, right? Education, so both being used by teachers and students. So detecting signs of stress or anxiety in students, how could that benefit us? And then also, how do we give that information to teachers to address it in the classroom, right? As an assistant rather than someone taking over the classroom. And then conflict management, right? So giving students ways or training them or teaching them how they can deal with conflict with an emotionally aware AI agent could have better outcomes in real life, as well as training teachers on how to deal with conflict as well. And then I think a overlooked or often not realized use case is helping people, okay? What I mean by this is people with impairments, health conditions, disabilities. How can we use emotionally aware AI to watch a video and be able to provide what that emotion of that video feels like. A photo, what is in the photo, right? What is people's emotions on their face? Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they excited? What's the scenario? And being able to paint that picture to people that may not be able to see that photo, I think is an often underlooked use case. And it goes multiple ways, right? So being able to take text and then also produce images off of it might be able to paint pretty images for people that maybe are, yeah. Okay, ethics. So this is a little bit deep one, and I'll try to not go too deep. But there are certainly ethical concerns around AI usage. I'm not going to go into suggestions on how we can create laws, but I'm rather going to talk about the ethical frameworks that I think we should be looking at when we're talking about emotionally aware agents. Okay. So the first, provide benefit to people, okay? Have them have software that is enhancing the emotional well-being of people and provide support to them. Being able to be a benefit to society, I think, is super critical here. And sorry, just a refrain, I forgot to talk about bioethics and how it applies, but bioethics is the ethical side of biology, right? So are we properly treating things in healthcare correctly? And these are kind of the bioethics kind of guiding principles. And I think they really do apply to technology as well. So not only for doctors, nurses, and psychologists and biologists, but also how does that same ethical principles apply to the technology side, right? Just as a side note, I just wanted to say why I called this bioethics, this slide bioethics. So do no harm, right? Don't create an emotional chatbot that is going to make people feel bad about themselves or produce harm or suggest harmful things for them, right? We want to have capability caution with our chatbots. Oh. Okay, autonomy. So allowing people to make their own decisions about the usage, about the outcomes, suggestions of what to do. We want people to still have and make those decisions and not have software making those for people. And then justice, so is the application just, is it available for all people? Is it being ethically designed? I think that in Gen AI, there's a very few number of people that are designing the software nowadays and training the initial models. And we have to be aware of this and how it has impacts globally to the population. And then the last point here is not part of bioethics, but I would argue that it should be added as an ethical principle for emotional AI, is the ability to be explained, okay? If you cannot understand something and it is being used in a healthcare sense, how are you able to properly have autonomy, be just about it, believe that it won't do you harm, right? This is critical, and I think us as software people need to learn and how to explain how this stuff works to our end users, okay? Okay, time for a quick demo. This is an application that we have designed here at the Liquid Studio called the Star Platform. All right, it's up there somewhere. Let's see if I can do this behind me, I'm sorry. There we go. All right. So this is our metaverse, the multiplayer platform. We've built a separate UI and chat interface, but also we can put it in the metaverse so that we can have multiple people talking to it at the same time. We can create interesting scenarios. We can tune and provide personas and personalities to these chatbots. And in the future, we also want it to be integrated into multiplayer scenes, so maybe you could even take notes when people are talking to each other in the metaverse, or be an assistant that you can just talk to and get responses for. So that's just set some context about what you're looking at right now. But let's see about my, my AI assistant here. This has been trained, or not trained, but I've loaded all of my notes from the presentation, some research papers that I've encountered during my putting this presentation together, and also I've put some Wikipedia entries, things like this, and it's a sort of a RAG model, right? And so let's find out and ask it some interesting things. So let's see. Okay. Yes, I did mean that. Okay. All right. So you can see here we're able to look into our emotional loaded data. Okay. Maybe not so useful right now, but let's see if it can do fun things like. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, we can also use our chat here. Can you give me one thing to leave the audience with? Oh no. Okay. Demos always fail, right? Okay. There we go. Emotions are the universal language that connects us all. With Emotive AI, we're teaching machines to speak this language too. I think that's pretty good, no? All right? Okay. It's not so impressive. We're making strides here, but I wanted to bring this up as some of the work that we're doing at the Liquid Studios and some of the people here in Bratislava are working on a daily basis. And I think it's important to show that at opportunities like this. Moving back to what might be interesting is an actual quote. But I think this is a perfect summary, and maybe now you might have an opinion on Emotive AI of if it really has emotions or if it is just simulating. But I think that this is a critical bit here, encapsulates, reflects, and sometimes extends. People, humans, training data goes in, results come out. And I think it's important that we kind of understand that as tech people so that we can use this stuff ethically and for good. Thank you. And that was my presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We got some questions coming in, so if we can flip it on the... There it is. Okay, let's dive right in. Do you have any data or study regarding the possibility to use AI as personal mentor or psychologist?
I do have a bunch of studies that I've read through. Mentor or psychologist, not necessarily. I would also caution that we need to be aware of data privacy when it comes to psychology. There's a great example out there of, I think it was Finnish psychologists were loading data that was written down into computer systems. The computer systems got hacked, and people's personal information was leaked online if they didn't pay a ransom. So just there's a lot of caution around psychology. But I don't have any necessarily specific studies about psychology, more about what is emotional AI, is it emotionally intelligent, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. What does do you think in the future AI will replace human relationships, or to what extent?
That's a good question.
Good one.
There should be a lot of caution that we do not replace, or I would say, that we do not replace AI and computer systems with human interaction, or yes, replace human interaction with AI systems. A lot of the studies that I was reading about ethics around this were saying things like, make sure your users are not getting addicted to this stuff. So if you have something that has human interactions, relationships, make sure that that we're not getting people hooked on this stuff.
Okay. What does the European AI Act say in this regard? I mean, when using AI tools, when interacting emotionally with real people.
Good question. It's the, where is that one?
Yeah, it's the second one.
Second one, okay. I have read parts of the EU AI Act, and mostly around the different, I'm forgetting the exact term they use, but the different levels of things, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I don't remember any specific things around emotional AI. There was caution in like using AI to monitor people at work, right? That's a no-no for the EU AI Act. So I do think that everyone living in the EU and working with this technology should at least read a ChatGPT summary of what the EU AI Act is saying. I think it's super important. As Accenture, we are aware of it, and clients are asking questions about it. They know it's coming. People know it's coming. We should all know bits and pieces and understand at least fundamentally. Maybe you don't agree with all of it or what it may mean, but to understand the meaning, yeah.
Okay. I'm just looking at what gets voted most. So
Sure.
Should an emotional AI pretend to be a human, for example, in customer support? It seems unethical. On the other hand, if it's saying a robot, it breaks the illusion of the AI having emotions. Ooh.
Good question. I do think that people should be aware that they are talking with an agent. I would say that it's probably, I would caution people to just fully replace. Sometimes it's obvious. Maybe in our case here, you have a robot that you're talking to. There's not someone sitting behind that, right? But scenarios like this have existed for quite some time. Everyone talks to Alexa or Google at home, right, to turn the lights off. I think that people will be able to hopefully tell. And of course, with the voice replication and stuff like this, there's all sorts of potential issues. But yeah.
Okay. Then we got, how does it behave with people who aren't in norm? For example, people with mental illnesses. Wouldn't models trained on general population misinterpret their emotions? Great
question. I guess I'm just going to say that to all of these questions, but I do actually, these are the best questions I've seen all day, I think.
You get a stamp on your chain.
Yeah.
Just for that. There you go. But we also want good answers.
Yes.
No stress.
It's true. Yeah. The training data that is used, I mean, who knows everything that is being used nowadays. When you are training something, the way you're training it, so you might be misidentifying potential psychological issues that someone may have based off of your training data, right? So there is the studies, the ethical people that I was reading are aware that this might be an issue. So when we are implementing use cases such as in psychology, we're not misidentifying things because of the training data. Yeah.
Okay, and then looking at the time, we got one more. Let's do the one that voted the most. Do you think that emotive AI will help or assist humans to tackle problems like fear of height?
I definitely do. There were a few studies that I didn't dive deep into, but it was about kind of getting over some scenario, right? So maybe it's a fear of dogs or something, and being able to have that in not necessarily even an emotive AI agent, right? Like a psychologist or something if you wanted to deal with the issue of heights, but also being able to put you in safe scenarios like VR goggles, right? So there are other technologies besides emotive AI that can help you with these things. Maybe you're scared of dogs and you are able to go and put on Oculus Quest and play in a dog park, and that helps you overcome that fear. So I think it's probably an A and a B on that one.
Okay, all right. Then I would say give him a round of applause. Kevin,
Thank you.
Thank you for the great questions, for the great answers.